Howdy. It's 3:30 in the morning as I record this. I'm overcoming a cold, and Deltarune is coming out in just about 4 hours. Can't believe it's happening. So as this era of the fandom comes to an end, I just wanted to take the chance at the 11th hour to, put something out there while I had the time. When I picked up this game in 2023, the fandom was already, on fire. There was already coals and embers and insanity, and that's really the way I like it. And I think there's something kind of special about putting something out there with the same frenetic energy as, one of those all-nighter season essays. I'm very familiar with how those go, but I have no idea what I'm doing here. What I didn't realize until recently was how treasured this drought has become. It's a kind of a fan creation renaissance. And I thought about how much of an impact that it's had on me. But I also got to thinking about how much different just being in the fandom is going to be after each successive release of chapters. And I have to imagine going from 1 to 2 was about the same. This can't be special. Not this, everything's going to be different. Every fandom goes through that. But I wanted to, while there was time, just, talk into the void for a little bit and just put out the predictions that I've built up, from my initial playthrough of the game, or that I've had the chance to put together after some reflection or talking with friends. And I'm not going to pretend that I haven't, binged watched every theory video out there over the past, year. But at least at this point, whether I'm right or I'm wrong about things, I have something permanent, something accountable I can reflect on or point and say, oh, I knew it all the time. Or I could look back and make fun of myself. That's fun too. There's something worthwhile just in speculating. And speculate I will. I want to start with one that I think is really fun, and that's the idea that Ralsei is a titan. My pointers for this are that his area, his realm, his dark fountain, whatever you want to call it, it's covered in those titan eyes. And he knows all about the prophecy. He knows that it was sent to him by time and space, which I'll get into. And in chapter 1, there's a mention that his dark fountain, which is our town, gets stronger as we recruit new people, which to me makes that, if not obvious, then at least interesting. And just because he's a titan doesn't mean that he has to be evil and bent on destruction. It's completely up in the air what his intent really is, but I think with just these, that's enough to at least stand on some ground and say, I think Ralsei's a titan. My little fluffy boy, my son, my scrungly scrimblow, my plongy splongy. Theory number 2. Gaster is a human. I have no evidence. I just think it's cool. The only people in the underground who seem to recognize what a human is are the king and the queen. Everybody else thinks you're some little monster kid. We can ignore Toriel, that's not important. But why would Asgore, who swore to kill all humans, let a human work in his lab? That's an excellent question. And my response is that Asgore never wanted to genocide the humans outside of that initial outburst. And given what a soft heart that he is, I'll just say that his fucked up face, if that's his face, is a mask. If all the others are so easily fooled, then that is enough for me. I'm reminded of the Memory Head poem that's also mixed in with the lorem ipsum. The gash weaves down as if you cry. Is that a cut on your face or part of your eye? The pain itself is reason why. Does that prove that he's wearing a mask? No, not really. It's just spooky, but I'll take it. Theory numero tres. Who's the knight? I don't think it's Chris. Every argument that somebody can make for or against has been argued to death. And, I mean, I can't bring anything new to the table there. But, personally, why I either don't think it is or I don't want it to be. Because sometimes those two are just, inextricable. Sometimes you can't tell. The first thing I'll say that's concrete is the placement. Chris's placement, the knight's placement. When you get that game over screen and you decide not to continue, you get presumably Gaster telling you then the world is covered in darkness. And by simple 2 + 2 is fish, you want to stop the night. When you die, the night succeeds, the world is covered in darkness. Chris is not the knight. And I do get how weird it is to use a game over screen as evidence for a theory. But sometimes that's just what it's about. We are the brain rot fandom. But the other thing that's big for me is the dream that Toby's described, where he's got that, the Delta Warriors are running up the stairs, and it's like an anime, and the stairs like go up, and you see all the chapter bosses, and at the very top of the stairs, in front of a white door, is the knight. And that's one of those other big things to me that say Chris is not the knight. This could be a subversive thing. I can't think of one exactly, but representing oneself as their own enemy is totally valid, and I get why people would just discard that. That's what I'm thinking, though. Also, please excuse the weird sounds my throat is making, or just how weird my voice sounds. I'm using the last of it, like what I have left, to make this video before I just go to sleep. Anyways, who do I think the knight is? Big surprise, I think it's Des. I just like it. Like most things, I think I'm going to fall back on the I just like it, I just think it's neat. But to me it's compelling, and with Chapter 2, and especially with the Spamton sweepstakes, that was a very big deal was made about Des being missing, about finding her, about the search, and she's not expressly dead, she is expressly missing, and I think she will turn up. And that's a very good piece of conflict, is for this person that we're looking for ends up being somebody that someone important to us lost. My next theory is one that's kind of dear to me and is more about the game itself, and it took me a while before I went and dived into like other content, other theory videos, that kind of thing, but it is kind of, it's pleasantly surprising to find out that something that I came up with is pretty similar to something somebody else came up with, and it's the device theory by Molly Stars. I can't remember the details that is brought up in that video, or I guess it's a couple of videos now, but I'm going to walk you through what made me think is going on there. At the very beginning, you have the entire Goner Maker section. You know, it's very sci-fi, it's very different, the text is different, there's like science noises going on, you're assembling a vessel. The language is impersonal, it's distant. and it just seems like an entirely different thing is happening, and that's after your heart is like summoned onto the screen with like a Star Trek teleporter effect and more science noises. And then after that, there's the one green save load screen that I can't remember how it's brought up. I think it's if you're saving and loading during chapter 1 before you've completed it or something like that. But that is also, the dialogue there is very much talking about like somebody else is taking your inputs, your commands, and doing stuff for you. They're handling your save, not you. They're the ones operating the machine, not you. Now something about this section, which I guess I'm going to take a sidebar, and that's the second voice that I've seen pop up, more recently at least. And I learned that apparently in Japanese, the style of speech by the second voice is identical to the fallen human from Undertale. And that's totally cool, but when I played Deltarune, I didn't get the idea of a second voice, and I think it's because the diction is still the same, the weird spaces are still the same, and it didn't register because the entire interface changes too, so it just felt like the same person through a different screen or something. So I get why somebody would say that there's another person there too, and if there is, that's totally valid. I'm fine being wrong. But I think I'm not totally convinced, anyways. What I do think is that because Undertale is a suggested like primer, and the fact that you can talk to Sans about Papyrus, or you can talk to Undyne about Alphys, it's playing with your pre-knowledge of these characters, and it lets you act as if you know them still, and it's kind of jarring when you talk to them and they have no idea what the hell you're talking about, because they don't know who you are. They've never seen you before, but you've seen them. And so I think you are supposed to be either textually or metatextually the same player. And I gotta tell you, when I got to that part where there's the traffic jam and I just sat there, and I think I was like AFK because I was like talking to somebody on Discord, and then I heard something familiar coming from the game, and then I caught on to the fact that the cars are honking Spear of Justice that like actually jump scared. It made me feel like I'm like locked down in a machine, or I'm like in a coma and there's like some memory that's trying to surface. It feels like something about me is trying to come up from suppression. And I know that's not like, it wasn't supposed to be that deep, but it really got to me. And I think that was the first, like, the first big jump. And if I really want to take it too far and go full corkboard red twine, when Bertley gets snowgraved, the blue bead in the hospital pops off the little track, the little toy that everybody remembers but has no idea where they come from. This is very relatable. But it's gone. It pops off after you snowgrave. Does that mean he's dead? I think in the fiction of Deltarune, maybe he's dead, but I think it's also a potential freeing. He's freed from it, and he's now waking up Matrix style, and I'm expecting us, the player, to also wake up Matrix style. And I think it would be very cool if you get to the end of the game, and it's like the end of that movie Existence, where all the people actually know each other and wake up in the room, and we all had the same dream. Okay, I want to name this one Door Theory. I get to do that. I haven't really seen it talked about this way generally speaking, when I see people talking about the end of Chapter 2 and Chris opening the door, the idea is to be letting the Dark Fountain out of the house, or more commonly, let Undyne into the house, so that you either get this like Undyne's in Chapter 3, and then the Dark Fountain linking out is how we get Chapter 4 Dark Fountain in the church. But what do I think is door theory? What is door theory? And it's really very obvious, at least it was to me. The door is being opened to create an alibi. To make it look like somebody came in during the night and opened the door and opened the Dark Fountain. And, whether or not it's like the same person that slashed the tires is the person who broke in, or like, oh my god, Chris, the knight broke in while we were asleep and they made a Dark Fountain. Whatever the case, I think that's why Chris opened the door, and then you and me, the players, are going to be prevented from relaying what we actually know to anybody. And it sounds like I'm building up a case for Chris Knight, but I'm not. The reason why I think Chris opened a Dark Fountain isn't because Chris is the knight. I think it's because, while talking to Queen, she talked about how any lightener of significant determination can open up a fountain, and I think this was just a way to test that out. We already know Chris is struggling in some way or another. Not exactly yet with what they're struggling about. This does seem like a solution to it. Okay. Don't forget. Everyone knows Deltarune came out first. It's really easy to find out that this is the game that Toby Fox wanted to make. And that art of Susie, Rouse, and Noelle, and I think Chris, predate Undertale. Rouse's name came first. Anyways, we know that Deltarune is based on a dream, or at least more specifically based on a dream about the ending to a video game. And making a leap, at least knowing how I dream about things, and how I am a creative person, and how I tend to be precious about things that are beautiful to me, I can easily imagine that as he was sliding into wakefulness, that "Don't forget, I'm with you in the dark" is what he heard along with the melody. That it was a sort of peaceful transition, because something like that would have stuck with me for years, and I would totally understand the passion that he's putting behind it. In Sans secret lab, there's the his machine, and there's that photo with the faces of people you don't recognize, and on the back it says "Don't forget." Now, to me, that evidences that the phrase has been important from the very beginning. But also, Undertale was a test. It was just him asking himself, well, can I even make a game? And the answer was yes, but that also seems like a contingency, or at least the kind of contingency I would put in, where if I fail, or if my game doesn't become popular, I can at least feel satisfied knowing that I put out there what was important to me. And I don't know, man, I just hope that the ending of Deltarune lives up to the hopes and dreams, and the expectations that he's got to live up to. I hope that it's everything that he's wanted. Alright, boys, it's time for entry 17. It's Sans. Sans and who? Sans and a mystery? Sans and a mystery man? But okay, so I've got some Gaster predictions too, but they're not going to be as interesting or extreme as a lot of people's. I mean, he's potentially the Eggman. I think if he was going to be anybody, I think he would be Sham, or a part of him would be Sham, or they would have known him or something. Sham just strikes me as very interesting. And they know a lot. They're this wise old cat that's been through a lot. And if nothing else, it would just be nice if at the end of the game there's just some kind of soft confirmation of something going on with them. But that's not Gaster anymore. So back to Gaster. Why is his motif everywhere? Ooh. Why Sham? Eyeball, spinny, flowy face? Why rules mouth, Gaster mouth? Why Gaster motif in all music? I don't know, but at this point, Gaster is everything, and nobody is allowed to have any meaningful story or connection that doesn't source back to him. At least if I'm going to make a hyperbolic statement based on what I see people talking about. Anyways, we got Gaster with the time and space. He was shattered across time and space. Rouse received his prophecy from time and space. Obvious connection, not obvious how it connects. And when I think about the fell into his machine thing, I do kind of think about this old 60s era sci-fi story that I can't remember the details about, that when I was a child my mother told me about. And it's this this thing where humans have created a chamber or a barrel or some kind of thing that we can simulate or create a whole new universe inside of to study universes and watch the little people, and we can run experiments on the people in this little mini universe machine. And at the very end, or the climax or the resolution, is that the evil doctor who is in charge of the program falls into the machine, and either it kills him and destroys the machine, or it at the very least kills him, and the lesson is a hubris. It's don't play God. And I don't think Toby Fox has read that story, and I don't remember the story either. But that is kind of where my mind goes when I hear about Gaster falling into his machine, and then there's the negative photons. This next experiment seems very interesting. What do you two think? It gives me the same vibe, and it kind of primes me to believe in the what people call device theory. And what is the experiment? How do the negative photon readings, while very obviously suggesting Deltarune, actually very much not obviously mean? Is Deltarune a simulation? Is it a fake world? Are we just using a machine to access it? Is it the Sans machine, like I said earlier? I don't know. Do your own research. Illuminati confirmed. One last shitpost theory, boys. Here we go. This is going to be called laughing mouth theory. Why does the Queen have the same mouth in her laughing sprite that Temmie does in her shop when you buy something? Ooh.